Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Niall.
And I'm Kyle, and I'm still kind of adjusting to being able to see you now.
It is a new era.
It is. Sure. Well, and the thing is, like, I'm looking at the stuff that's in the background, and I'm like, well, I got to do like a bit about like that solitary air duster back there. Like, I got to come up with something. Nothing's really coming to me, but it's like I'm a visual person.
Yeah.
And so I see something in the background. I'm like, well, that's pure joke fodder.
Yeah, you're like the military. If you see something, you say something.
Yeah. Sure, let's go with that. But yeah, I'm Kyle, and with me as always is Niall, who is going to be. We don't like call this out super often, but I'm going to do it. You're the what do we call? You're the hero, the researcher.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to call us the protagonist,
and I'm the fool.
Yeah.
And we happen to have a guest in the studio today, which I know the deal here. I can't. I have to introduce her because she's not going to do it. Because what? Actually, Niall, check this out. We have a guest in the studio.
Oh, do we?
Yeah. See, this isn't going to work, right? Like this is one of us has to say something.
Yeah. So the guest in the studio we have from friend of the show, last appeared in the epic episode 400.
Yeah.
Playing everyone's favorite character. We got Jules in the house.
Jules.
You can just say that it's going to be a good one.
No, I leave that for our Discord to say. They just remind us every time that they like the Jules episodes more than, they like the normal episodes, but
when Jules is here.
When Jules or Garrett shows up, then people are like, oh yeah, this was a good one.
It is honestly delightful when I see the notification in the Discord where it's somebody's just like, oh shit, it's a Jules episode, or oh shit, it's a Garrett episode, or whatever. They get real excited, and that makes me excited for them. I'm happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jules and I, we don't know shit.
I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
Well, this week, without much further ado, because there is a decent amount of track to cover here. Are either of you familiar with the concept of ghost trains?
That's interesting you should say that, because no.
Okay.
But
Good start.
I actually was just because I'm gonna give her a little leverage here, a little crowbar with which to pry open this crate full of tasty treats that Jules wants to dig into. Jules was asking for recommendations for a very special playlist of music recently. And I do think I sent you the Ghost Train, which is the song Ghost Train by Gorillaz, which is, I think, their first single.
Oh, really?
Ever?
Yeah.
It was a good song.
I think so. It is a good song. I really like that song. I think it's kind of an underrated song. And I don't think it taught me anything about ghost trains, but that song, when I hear the phrase ghost train, which I should say not a thing I hear very often in my life.
Yeah. Okay.
That song plays in my head. It comes up
on that playlist. Before you sent me that song, there was already a track called Ghost Train.
Really?
By Elvis Costello.
Oh, no shit. Okay, well, we both got our Ghost Train tunes.
That's right.
Perfect.
And so that's what I think of when you say Ghost Train. But okay, so should I take a stab at what I think a ghost train is? Because I think I've heard of it.
I think
I mean, it's a train.
Yeah.
that's a ghost
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
that has ghostly passengers.
That one is
Up for debate?
sometimes.
Is that
Okay.
up for debate then, or-
Sometimes it's not a requirement. It's kind of a square rectangle situation
Okay.
where you don't need ghostly passengers to be a ghost train, but some ghost trains have ghostly passengers.
It's like Ghost Ship, but it's a
Yes.
train.
Yeah.
Or, well, I bet you there's sort of some. I imagine Niall will get into this. Niall's going to answer everything. So I don't know why I'm bothering, but there could be like maybe a midnight meat train situation. Like where there's a guy who seems to haunt the train or the station that it's in or whatever. Like I imagine this could go multiple ways. It could either be a phantom train that appears, or it could be a train that's very haunted, which would be new for the show.
I was picturing like you're at a train station and a nice old man gives you directions to the turnstile or whatever, and then you tell the lady who takes your ticket about the nice old man, and you describe him to her, and she goes,
Yes.
"Oh my God,
Yes.
Jeffrey's been dead for 20 years."
There's I don't have that specifically,
Okay.
but I do have some stuff that is similar to that.
Great.
I love that.
But I'll just start with this. Ghost trains can mean many things, both in what we're actually talking about and when you just Google ghost trains, you get all sorts of shit, because I guess when they call, there are like two different other things about trains that they call ghost trains. So if you Google this, you'll probably find articles about these late night trains in Britain where they have to keep things going due to regulations and to keep trains in the right sides of the tracks and everything. So they just like send unmanned trains like late at night on the tracks with no one in them to basically manage where all the cars are effectively. And so that will pop up, but also like abandoned train cars. There's like, I guess there's like a glut of abandoned train cars in Alaska that people go and like find in the woods and shit. And so those all things will pop up. But what we're talking about specifically, also the thing that I realized was my first, probably my first place I heard about ghost trains was I was reminded of the Hey Arnold episode featuring a ghost train.
I was just about to say that. That was the next thing that was going to be out of my mouth was the Hey Arnold episode. I think that like spooked me as a kid.
It spooked me too, and it is more in the line of what we're actually talking about here with like a spectral train. So if you've seen that Hey Arnold episode from 1996, you're well on the way for this episode.
I know that I watched Hey Arnold, but will you refresh my memory? You guys are so much older than me. And I'm so young. Will you refresh my memory?
Kyle did a full Hey Arnold rewatch when we were in college.
I did.
But like the basic idea is there's an episode with a ghost train on like the subway tracks, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think but I think it was like they had to go some sort of weird route to get there. And I remember there's heavy implications that they go to hell.
Cool.
Yeah, because look, the thing that I will say before I dive into this is there's probably at least one more, if not two more episodes just about different types and different stories of ghost trains. Like we will probably at some point do a ghost trains part 2. But it's not something I'm going to tackle immediately. So there are other things. If you didn't hear about your favorite ghost train story in this episode, never fear. We'll probably cover it at some point.
Excellent.
But there, in general, if we're talking broadly, there's a couple different things that ghost trains can be. Some are full-blown spectral trains with multiple cars, with lights, with like sometimes steam coming out of the tops and everything. Like there are ones that are full-blown multi-car spectral entities that will go on tracks or sometimes not even on tracks. But then also you can have things that are as minimal as like effectively a spotlight and some noises. Like there are different levels of apparition when it comes to ghost train. That can kind of that it just depends on the story and the thing that it's tied to sometimes. If the story behind it is like really based on someone seeing the light or whatever on the whatever tragic accident birthed this ghost train, sometimes it's more representational than literal. But largely it is spectral trains rolling down the tracks, scaring the shit out of engineers and passengers alike.
I feel that I would be remiss as the current Harold Ramis fucker that I am, who has been obsessively rewatching Ghostbusters for the past week. That if I didn't say that in the first Ghostbusters, there is a line about a ghost train.
You want to know why I researched this week?
Because you heard that
literally
line?
jumped into my brain because of the random one-off tossed off line in Ghostbusters.
In the montage
Wait,
where...
Sorry, I'm trying to remember when this happened, like what they say.
In the news montage of where it's showing them busting the ghosts when they're on the upswing, one of the news reporters says, people are having stories of ghosts everywhere in New York City. When I was a boy, my grandmother told me about a spectral locomotive that used to go by the farmhouse. That's one of my mom's favorite lines in that movie. It's just a random, the guy just tosses it off about a spectral locomotive.
Yeah.
But then in Ghostbusters 2, which I'm going to tie Niall to a chair and make him watch tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are assaulted by a ghost train.
What the fuck? Really?
So I didn't realize about the Ghostbusters 2 part, but I did hear the Ghostbusters 1 when we rewatched it this week. And that literally was like, oh, I should never look. I've never just like checked into ghost train stories. There has to be some stories.
And so you logged on to google.com and you said ghost train.
And then I had to click through like 3 other things that ghost train could mean before I got to like the actual stuff.
You know, ghost trains, not specifically, but like the idea of like spectral. I mean, like you did the one on the carriage, right? Where like this lady rides around on a carriage, and there's something about the stories of spectral vehicles and like non-human or animal ghosts that like throws me for a loop. Cause like there's like this really weird so like you have these multiple different camps of the paranormal when it comes to ghosts, like multiple different styles that people go for. So like you have people who have sort of a religious spiritual bent to ghosts and things like that. And you have like I could list off the different types, but like the point that I want to get at is like I find the idea of spectral vehicles of a ghost train to be like ontologically like difficult because it's like
how did the train die?
How does this work? Like what is what mode of being is allowed to become a ghost after it dies?
That's the thing that I think about because it has real like, oh, we decided corporations are people energy, you know? Like it makes the natural state of the paranormal being like slightly capitalist in its fucking ambitions, it's like a weird bent.
That means like Enron could be a ghost, which is awesome. I love that idea. Actually, I went from one side of like I think it's like too weird and confusing to if we can go like call up the ghost of Enron, that would be sick.
What director should make the corporations at ghost satire movie?
Oh, satire.
No, I feel like it needs to be someone
straight.
Like I don't know. I was trying to think of like if Cronenberg could pull it off or something, but that's not quite right.
I mean, Cronenberg would be too horny about it.
Well, you say that like it's a problem.
I think Soderbergh could have a take.
Oh, Soderbergh would be good. You're right. That's good.
Well, it is one of those things that like it kind of bothers me, especially because I think the most common conception of ghosts these days are like the people who are like casually, maybe unconsciously, just cool with like the sort of suggested reality that the Ghost Adventures type ghost belief is, where it's like there's like a scientific sort of way to, you know, figure out and deal with ghosts. But it's like as soon as you start telling me there's a ghost train, I'm like, okay, well, fuck you. Let's make up our minds here. It's very confusing. So.
There's also a part in Ghostbusters 2 where the Titanic pulls into a pier in New York City, and it's the Titanic is there.
Yes.
Like the ship is there, and people are getting off the ship. And so why does the Titanic have a ghost?
Do you ever just like imagine a type of dude that you kind of hope exists?
all the
'Cause
fucking time.
I just imagine the guy that is able to like identify, like using his spirit box, he's able to identify ghostly car engines. Like you put together the guy that can like, oh, that's a V8 Dodge Charger engine out there with your spirit box guy, and you make a whole new type of guy.
Identifying cars and posts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put that guy together
anyway.
with a ghost adventure type. Yeah, I love that.
So a thing that I just found interesting is, in terms of like context, the steam train was invented in 1829. As far as I can tell, that's the kind of agreed upon date of when the first like actual steam train existed. And I found ghost stories about trains dating back to at least the 1860s.
Okay.
So like the train was still a relatively new thing. Like we were still getting a rollout of tracks in major areas when like the idea of ghost trains started to exist. It like the time between the train being a thing and stories about ghost trains existing is very small. It's kind of weirdly small.
That's fair. I imagine this would also be like the heyday of train-based heists. And I feel like lots of tumult in a place is part of what generates ghost stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and I honestly, that's a great segue into our first story because we're going to
ghost
start.
segue. There could be like a segue that
hold off on that.
Oh, okay.
Because there might be some places for that kind of that kind of stuff later on. Because I want to start with a time of great mourning in our nation's history. Because no. I should have known that's where your brain would go.
They like fucking did everything they could to produce the spirits of the Twin Towers with those two light boxes they put out there. So.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying.
The speed with which I want someone to time how long it took Kyle to say 9/11 because I think it was less than a second.
Look,
it was amazing.
Again,
I said time of national mourning, and Kyle's mouth was already open to say 9/11.
I just like again. I'm trying to logically follow where this idea of ghost vehicles.
Well,
leads.
Kyle, we did just leave off with me saying the earliest reports were around 1860. So I think that's a little bit further away from 9/11.
That's fair.
September 11th, 1860.
Yeah. No, we got to go all the way back to the mid 1860s and the death of former President Abraham Lincoln.
Now that guy's a ghost. That guy's he's been
for
a ghost
sure.
For a while,
one of this is no joke. One of the most prominent and famous ghost trains in history is Lincoln's funeral train.
Whoa, I didn't know about this.
Yes, it's actually it's a weird story. So back in the 1860s, starting in 1863, the U.S. Military Railroad, which was kind of a predecessor to the modern U.S. Army Transportation Corps, began constructing a presidential luxury steam locomotive at the end of the Civil War called the United States. It was going to be called the United States. It was going to be basically like Air Force One, but a train. It was going to be the president's train.
Yeah, it seems derivative, but whatever.
So Abraham Lincoln was actually not that into this idea. He was kind of thought it was an unnecessary extravagance. They didn't need to be spending money like at the end of the Civil War when they should be rebuilding the country on something like a luxury steam train.
Every new fact I hear about Lincoln makes him sound cooler.
I know. Like he was a world-class wrestler along with he's an interesting fella. And now unfortunately, for people who have some knowledge of history, this is also around the time Lincoln was shot and killed.
Right.
So the train was under construction and like wasn't finished until basically when Lincoln was dead. So Lincoln supposedly never actually saw this thing in its finished state in his lifetime. But it was the place that his body would spend some time after his death, because what this train ended up being used for was to do a a basically tour of presidential funerals across 12 separate funerals and traveling through 150 different communities between Washington, D.C. and Lincoln's hometown. And just doing this big national tour of mourning, effectively.
That is weird.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have television, so like I can see the idea behind like, okay, this is an important figure in the nation.
Yeah, and there's not really a precedent at the time.
I guess it's fair.
I was trying to think if there is anyone who like that majorly had died that people would want to see, because like otherwise you would probably have gotten like way too many people going to the funeral.
Yeah, like Washington, D.C. would have been like mobbed.
The infrastructure didn't exist for you to be able to do that then, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because like whenever I hear a president dies these days, I'm just like, all right, see ya, asshole. But like, I guess back then, like, I mean,
yeah, we've heard of presidents dying, but how many times have you heard of a president being assassinated?
Yeah,
that's fair. But it's like, I also think that wasn't Lincoln like pretty well beloved by, you know, the anti-slavery part of the United States and stuff. Like he was like a pretty, I mean, obviously
well-liked guy.
Yeah, like I feel like he was actually
he was kind of like America's dad.
He is kind of like America's dad. And so I could see that now, but like, you know, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens when Donald Trump dies.
Oh my God. How many people went to JFK's funeral?
Wasn't
that also insane? Didn't people
that may
like
have been a big deal.
en masse go to Washington for JFK's funeral?
I mean, like Elvis's
Elvis's
these
funeral
big
was also
funerals can like take over a city for days.
Well, Elvis attended his
So
own funeral. We established this.
True.
When it's all horse and carriage and the steam train was just invented, then it must be pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it didn't even like. There started to be reports of this ghost train happening while the actual train was still traveling around the country. This started basically immediately upon the Lincoln funeral train being a thing. This was back when all the stuff was done manually, like operating switches on the railroad, signals, water stations, signing, all that stuff was very manual. So there were a lot more people actively working on the railroad proper. And there started to be reports.
Were they working all the livelong day?
I believe they were working all the livelong day.
Okay.
Trying to make sure that presidential train keeps on rolling.
Did they whistle while they worked? I would be curious to know.
I don't have any reports on that specifically, but I'm sure there was at least someone was doing a little jaunty tune.
I could probably conjure up an older reference than the Seven Dwarves, but that was the one that came to mind. So.
That was perfect.
Hey, I was going straight to the beginning of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" So that's
there you
we're
go.
not. So there are reports of Abraham Lincoln's ghost haunting places. Like he supposedly haunts the White House, various places in his hometown of Springfield, Illinois. But the big thing with the he's only in one train. He might be haunting all these other places, but he's got a fucking train that is like the people when they talk about Abraham Lincoln's funeral train. When you were talking about like how do you get a physical object to be a specter? You know, like how is the train? The idea behind this is effectively that the nation was in such a state of mourning that they, you can think of it as like a kind of thought form or whatever the fuck. But the idea is basically there was such a state of like national mourning for Abraham Lincoln that the collective like negative emotion of that thing has created this specter of this train that's still on the anniversary of these things still like supposedly can be seen and heard traveling down the tracks on the East Coast and it towards the Midwest. Like that is the idea behind it. I don't know if all of them have that kind of background, but people specifically talk about this one being a like tulpa of collective grief almost.
See,
Wow.
that to me is like, if you're going to argue that there are ghost trains, that's like the only sort of consistent, sensible argument you can make. I don't personally believe that's a possibility, but like, if you believe in these things, it's like that's the only one you can make. You can't. You gotta stick to that realm of like sort of like spiritual energies of like, I don't know how else you talk about this other than what you just described.
Yeah. There are some like newspaper reports from a little after the fact. Like I have a couple different stories seem to all break around the same time in 1879. There was a New York Sun article that noted, it says specifically with a large amount of skepticism that there were, quote, many trackmen and laborers along the Hudson River Railroad line who pretend to have seen the spectacle. It is said on that night, the anniversary of when the actual train would have passed through the area, every year, all the trainmen hear and see and feel the specter train rush by them. It then would go on to explain some of the experiences of the railroad workers, saying that they would see things like ghostly yellow train headlights rushing towards them when there was no train actually on the rails, along with hearing things such as train whistles and bells that would, quote, strike terror to the hearts of those that hear them. There was also another article from around the same time in the Albany Evening Times that did a more kind of, this is one of the most famous quotes that you're going to find about the funeral, the Lincoln funeral ghost train. Regularly in the month of April, about midnight, the air on the tracks becomes very keen and cutting. On either side of the tracks, it is warm and still. Every watchman, when he feels the air, slips off the track and sits down to watch. Soon, the pilot engine of Lincoln's funeral train passes with long black steamers and with a band of black instruments playing dirges, grinning skeletons all about. It passes noiselessly. If it is the moonlight, clouds come over the moon as the phantom train goes by. After the pilot engine passes, the funeral train itself, with flags and streamers, rushes past. The track seems covered with black carpet, and the coffin is seen in the center of the car, while all about it in the air and on the train behind are vast numbers of blue-coated men, some with coffins on their backs, others leaning upon them. Supposedly, if a real train is going around at the same time, it's going to go quiet as the phantom train rides past it, and the event will seemingly have some effect and stop clocks and watches if you're nearby when it happens.
Ooh.
So if you want to go try to hang out around here, they say the date is April 27th. If you want to go try to see the spectral image of I think it's like a 9-car train in total.
Damn.
And that's the idea.
That's some goosebumps shit. That's some say cheese and die type shit.
The amount that they lean into the like, oh, there are these people in blue coats with coffins on their backs and shit is
it's kind of folkloric.
Yeah. It feels a lot more mythological than a lot of our current, like a lot of the more normal stories.
But it's a striking image. I like it. Now, I will say, though, it complicates things that they say their watches stop.
Yes.
Okay. Just throwing this out there. Kind of sounds like maybe missing time, potentially. There could be some ufological connection to this. If you're seeing lights on the horizon and hearing mysterious noises and your watch stops, I don't know. Could be... I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Could be UFOs. Like,
could be UFOs.
I don't know exactly how Abraham Lincoln's funeral train would end up as a UFO, but maybe
well, sure.
The treaty.
Well, I mean, Lincoln was an alien.
Sure.
Right,
I was going to say maybe the alien human crossover project started earlier than we assumed, but maybe Lincoln was just an alien. I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's a
what was he hiding under that beard?
Is
That's
this
what I'm
what the
saying.
next National Treasure movie's about? Be honest.
Nick Cage is going to unearth the alien corpse of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, he's gonna find the actual like Anunnaki bloodline that makes up our presidential lineage.
Hell yeah!
And John Voight is going to be like, "You have to stop doing this."
Yeah, and yet he's somehow still gonna end up in like almost all of the movie.
Yep.
Even
I
though
would
he
watch this
says no
for sure.
Yeah. So
Turns out John Voight, his great grandfather, was also an alien.
yeah.
And
So Nicolas Cage is like actually some like folk leader of the alien races.
I think that National Treasure 3, the best hook possible for it is that Nick Cage finds out that he shares a bloodline with aliens, and now he's like a shape-shifting alien.
That'd be awesome.
and that's how he pulls his next heist.
That would be a whole new kind of like, I think that would take the genre or the franchise in a whole new direction that I think is needed in this day and age.
Throw in the whole trying to find the bones of Anunnaki Lincoln, and I am there.
Perfect.
Yeah. So the stories don't always involve that level of like actual spectral beings on
I
top of
thought you were going to say they don't always involve the president dying.
No.
They aren't all about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Just that one.
Every single president who has died has generated a ghost train that's tailored to their particular aesthetic and personality.
And is Taft's extra wide?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jules, if you want to go there, sure.
And Reagan's leaves a trail of jelly beans in its wake. Like it's
Ooh, that would be. I thought you were gonna say a trail of blood, but
the tamest Reagan joke you could have possibly made.
Which one?
That was shockingly tame.
Which one was it? Reagan, who was like really into tapioca.
Oh God, I don't remember.
Well, it's Reagan or Nixon. One of those two chuckleheads was it. So one of those two has a tapioca cart at the back of their train.
There you go. Just leaving fucking tapioca.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I said, not all the sightings of this train have that many people involved in it. Sometimes it's just like an unmanned train that is going around, but otherwise the rest of it stays pretty much the same.
The unmanned ones.
Yes.
Is there like, what's the reason?
Oh, we're still talking about the Abraham Lincoln one. Just sometimes the spectral.
Oh, you're saying sometimes the Abraham Lincoln ones aren't manned?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I see.
So sometimes they take the night off.
Yeah,
the
sometimes
skeleton crew.
Sometimes it's a full blown party. Skeleton crew. Very nice there. Had to point that out.
Well, they gotta keep the ghost trains running on the track for logistical reasons, sort of like the British. It's like
Yeah.
they just send them out.
Yeah. But if you want to talk about like more, well, let's get into a more kind of specific case here, because we're going to talk about the ghost train of Marshall Pass.
Sorry, the Abraham Lincoln ghost train of Albany is not very specific for you, or
It's not specific enough.
It has like more preamble and more, and then after that, it's just like this one is straight up. There was a single tragic event, and that event this is more the like. Well, this one I think has a bit more of the kind of standard story for ghost trains here.
Gotcha.
So the Marshall Pass is in Colorado. It's one of Colorado's most precarious roads. It's I don't know where exactly this is, but it's in between Salida and Gunnison, wherever the fuck that is in Colorado.
A lovely country. It's beautiful out there.
I do like Colorado. It's a nice place. So the area was discovered by Lieutenant William Marshall in 1873, which is where it got its name. Supposedly he found it. This is just funny to me, which is why I included it.
Let's scare quotes. He discovered it, but go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. He named it for white people. Okay. And he did this because he was making a mad dash in search of a Denver dentist because he had such a bad toothache. So he supposedly found this whole like road area that's like this whole pass to get through this mountain range because he had such a bad toothache and was looking for a dentist.
Okay.
So, the actual story for this takes place between 1880 and 1881. There's not a specific date listed for it. But there was a railroad engineer by the name of Nelson Edwards, who was taking a train for the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad, which I guess is like the company that owns the trains. And they were he was driving this train near Gunnison when he had heard ramblings of some sort of like ghost train in the area, but it was kind of a nebulous thing, and they pressed on. And they made various trips over this pass over a 2-month span without any incident. However, one evening when he was guiding a passenger train towards the pass, he began to kind of see another train coming at him. But what he didn't know was that the bridge was actually weakened. So the whole thing of this is like there are people supposedly working on this weakened bridge ahead of him. There's this train coming towards him, and he is honestly just freaked out about all of it because he doesn't know about the weakened bridge, but he's got a train bearing down on him. But he was pressing on, and eventually when when the train was supposed to have hit him, it disappeared. But he was so close to where the weakened bridge was that he couldn't stop. And also the tracks were icy because we were in the winter, I guess. And so he supposedly skidded on the tracks while trying to stop himself and ran over 4 people working on the railroad here.
Yikes.
So this led to a whole thing where there's this like spectral train that's trying to I guess it was trying to warn him that this bridge was out. Like that's the story here.
Did not do a
but
good
it
job.
didn't work. The only thing that is like there's no record of these 4 guys being killed. Like this is just one of those stories that gets put around there. Like it will show up on a lot of lists of ghost trains, but like there's not even an inciting incident of where the ghost train came from that I found, or like what that train is supposed to be. It's just in this pass, and it like blocked off this. It like almost tried to avert this incident, but instead led to some unconfirmed deaths. It's a very weird story. Like it's just I don't really know exactly what to do with it, because like I don't know where the ghost train came from in this one. It just is. It was already in existence and almost hit a new train. That's it.
Huh. So this is a ghost train sent perhaps by God himself.
Yeah. There was like the only thing they found was there was a wreck in November of 1888 that killed 2 men on a train. But it didn't have anything to do with this guy Nelson Edwards. It didn't have anything to do with like those people weren't working on the railroad. Like the story doesn't seem to have any real life grounding that I can find, but it gets repeated all over the fucking place. So
did what's his face get his tooth figured out?
I don't know about that. He was I'm assuming he found his dentist after he uncovered heretofore unknown lands that no one's ever seen before in Colorado. Yeah. So the only postscript to this really is that Nelson Edwards ended up quitting his job for this place and ended up running for a different organization called the Union Pacific Railroad. So basically he like left the track that has ghost trains on it and went to a different company. So
Okay. Interesting. So this
sounds like a man going through a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
But you couldn't buy a motorcycle back then.
Yeah, so instead you'd make up a story about a ghost train.
Exactly.
Make a big job change for a different railroad company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This next one is basically what I would consider almost like the archetypical one, and it's the Old Tay Bridge ghost train. It takes place in 1879 when this is a kind of one of the more famous British ghost trains. It was a very stormy night, December 28th of 1879. There were gale force winds of approximately 80 miles per hour. But for some reason, the bridge, the Tay Bridge, remained open to traffic. At 7:13 p.m., a train started to cross the Tay Bridge, and it was due to reach its next stop at 7:19. However, the bridge was so narrow that only one train could travel its tracks at a time, so signalmen were placed on either side to try to control the traffic. As the train made its way across the bridge, the signalman on one side suddenly saw a bright flash followed by complete darkness. He tried to signal the cabin across the bridge to see anything, what was going on, but all communication had been severed. And when the train didn't appear on the other side of this bridge after a little while, a locomotive foreman named John Roberts volunteered to go and investigate. He started to crawl across the bridge, trying to see, in the pouring rain, massive winds, awful everything. But when he gets closer to the center of the bridge, he finds out the entire bridge had collapsed, plunging the train along with its 70 passengers and the engineer and crew into the waters of the Tay River.
Yikes.
All of these people died,
Yeah.
and only 46 of the bodies were actually recovered.
Wow.
Oh my God. Only
That's
46.
fucking brutal.
That's a lot of.
Yeah. So they basically think that there was something to do with how heavy the winds were, that it just couldn't support the weight of the train on that night. Like it was one of those things where the environmental factors weakened the bridge enough that it couldn't handle the weight of the train.
Imagine getting on a train in weather like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust a train.
Yeah.
No.
Fuck this train shit. I'm flying from now on. Getting on a Boeing.
Yeah, because
yeah.
you know what? in this country, planes notoriously reliable right now. That's the word I would use.
Oh, and side note, I did have some flying some airplane industry whistleblowing that I want to do. If you guys don't mind me bringing that to the end of the
Yeah,
show.
Oh,
yeah.
I
Go
would
ahead.
love that.
Go ahead and put that out there. We'll get that on the
Put it
feed.
in the show notes.
So, a bunch of people started to like blame the designer of the bridge, whose name was Thomas Bouch. That's the guy's name. And he ended up getting like totally blamed for this, but he denied the charge. But it basically ruined his career.
Your
He,
bridges
never
suck
worked.
shit, dude. We're sick of your bridges. Your bridges have killed 70 plus people.
Like literally, he had designs for another bridge in Scotland called the Forth Bridge. The foundations had already been laid and everything, and the contract was signed.
Are you telling me that in Scotland in 1879 they only had 3 bridges?
I don't know about that, but it's
This was the 4th one.
yeah, I know.
They didn't want another one. They were like, we got 3 bridges.
Well,
Good.
3 is enough.
They definitely didn't want this one because they straight up just like pulled the contract. Like this guy
Yeah.
lost out on this job he already had. And he died 10 months after the Tay Bridge disaster. And they say that he died a broken man.
Aw.
God.
And now
not-
he rides the ghost train?
Yeah.
No. Well, actually, maybe. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
His son-in-law supposedly did, though. His son-in-law died on the Tay Bridge disaster.
Your punishment for your shit ass bridges is to ride the ghost train for eternity.
Yeah.
They did end up making a new bridge that ran right along next to the old Tay Bridge. But now, supposedly, every single year on the anniversary of the bridge collapse, supposedly you'll see or hear basically a reenactment of the bridge collapse in ghost form.
So there's a ghost bridge?
Supposedly there's like a whole ghost collapsing bridge
Whoa,
with
what the
train
fuck?
that people see sometimes on the anniversary of this disaster. They supposedly can also hear the screams as the people plummet into the water.
Nice. Wow.
So this is how, like, when you see, how you like after a while, and when you're looking up ghosts, you're like, okay, so this is your kind of your basic ghost.
Yeah.
This
No.
fair.
Yeah, I guess it's fair. I do know how that feels, but it might not be immediately obvious to other people.
To
Yeah,
the layman.
It may not be as universal of a feeling, but this is like your basic ghost train.
Mm-hmm.
You have a specific tragic event that is being almost commemorated by a spectral entity on the anniversary of that happening.
That's also the deal with like ghost ships most of the time, isn't
A lot
it?
of times,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like a crew died all at once and now the ship sails that water.
The ghost ship thing is interesting because it's that, but there's also just ships that came back somewhere, like drifted in somewhere, and all the people were gone.
Yeah.
Things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's always pretty interesting to me. And usually it's probably due to some sort of natural event, but that's like such an eerie thing. There's the very famous one about the ship that drifted ashore. It was like a big ship that had a full ass crew, And when they got there, the only living things left on the boat were like a bunch of rats. Is the one that I remember reading about. So
I heard
it's
a
like
story
that.
once that a ship drifted into harbor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Was Harold
the whole
Ramis
crew was dead, and the captain was had tied himself to the
Yeah.
wheel.
there?
Right.
Yeah.
And there were all these boxes of dirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
A bunch of boxes of dirt on the
Now, where'd you see this? Where'd you see this fanciful tale?
I don't know. There was a guy. He had these really cool sunglasses though,
And-
and he was hot as hell.
Okay.
Kyle,
Is
how
this-
familiar are you with your Dracula
Keanu
lore?
Reeves was there.
Oh, is this a
This-
ghost
this-
ship?
No.
It's the last voyage of the Demeter.
Well, no, I
But
was
it's-
doing Dracula.
it's
I was
the-
doing Bram Stoker's
Oh.
Dracula.
It's the Dracula Demeter legend.
Hmm.
I actually don't know about this.
Oh, it's cool.
Well, it's in the story of Dracula, he takes a boat and he has to come in boxes full of dirt from his homeland.
Oh, yeah.
And he
Okay.
kills everyone on the boat.
Oh, okay. I got
And
you.
that ship is called the Demeter. And in Bram Stoker's Dracula, there is the journal of the captain
Okay.
that describes what happens
I've
on the boat.
heard the dirt thing. That was one that I
Yeah.
remember hearing about, but I've never. I may have missed this
Yeah.
movie.
You got to read up on your Dracul.
I know.
You host a podcast called It Gets Weird, and you don't recognize the tale of the Demeter?
Go watch Bram Stoker's Dracula. It fucking rules.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, you would like it actually.
I do want to see that.
It's really good.
Tom Waits is in it. It's great.
Tom Waits, really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
He plays Renfield.
isn't
Hell yeah, my favorite character.
Tom Cruise in that one?
Tom Jones is in
that's,
it.
Or is
that's
that
you're
Interview
thinking
with
of
the Vampire?
you're thinking of Interview with the
All
Vampire,
right, fuck me, I
which
guess.
is Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt.
Tom Hanks is in
Tom Hanks is in Interview with the Vampire?
it. Yeah.
Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks. Well, why have they never done a two Toms movie?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And they gotta do.
Okay, recast one of each of their movies.
Okay.
Add the other one. Do one of each.
All right, so Tropic Thunder, we're putting Tom Hanks in that role.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's a Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
But he's
Starring
in it.
Tom Cruise.
Starring, okay.
Above the title.
Now I have to think what Mission Impossible stunt do I most want to see Tom Hanks recreate?
That's kind of where
I
my
don't even
brain
care
went.
because I'm doing Turner and Hooch and Tom Cruise is the dog.
Okay, there we go. That's they get a dog that does all his own stunts, and then to
Yeah.
make Tom Cruise happy. What's Tom Cruise been in? He's been in.
I'm gonna do Tom Cruise in The Burbs.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna
That's Tom
do,
Hanks.
Yeah.
So-
and then I'm gonna put Tom Hanks into Top Gun Maverick.
Okay.
Perfect.
Cool.
Perfect. Are you going to say how or
Oh
they're
no,
just in
straight
there?
up 1-to-1 replacement for each of them.
Oh, I see. I was adding them. I was doing
Oh,
buddy
adding.
movies
Oh.
where in the movie
then obviously
you add so
sorry.
that it's a Tom and Tom.
then I'm sorry, brain blast. Recasting,
Why would I replace the dog with Tom Cruise? I wasn't replacing Tom Hanks. Tom Cruise is playing the dog.
Okay.
That's the joke.
So
You guys didn't get it.
what about Night and Day?
Uh-huh.
Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks two-hander, and you put Tom Hanks in as was it Cameron Diaz?
Yeah.
Is that who's in it?
That's- See,
I don't
that's
know
perfect.
what that.
That's
what's
exactly
Night and
what I'm
Day.
It's a movie where Tom Cruise plays a spy who's been like burned by his organization and is on the run, and he runs afoul of this woman, Cameron Diaz, who gets wrapped up in his shenanigans, and he has to like protect her throughout all of
And
this
she's
stuff.
just like a normal person.
Okay. And so that would be those two instead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Tom Hanks would just be like the two-hander there.
I'm going to add Tom Cruise to A Man Called Otto.
The fuck is that?
It's a Tom Hanks movie.
It's a Tom Hanks movie about him being a kind of surly neighbor to this young family and having his heart warmed by their little daughter.
Wow.
He's like a surly, like old
It's an old
European
man movie.
man.
Tom Hanks in Top Gun would be kind of sick.
As Goose or as
Just flying a plane around, being like,
Well, you said Maverick.
I did.
Top Gun.
I'm gonna put him in as the John Hamm.
Yeah, I was going to say John.
yeah,
Hamm.
he's
Gotta be
like
John
flying a plane around, and he's like flying a plane is like a box of chocolates.
What if you just had Tom Hanks do the Val Kilmer part in Maverick?
Yeah.
What if it was just Tom Hanks and
But
no
just
one
in
acknowledged
Maverick and
it?
not in Top
Yes,
Gun
just in
OG?
Maverick. He comes in and he's playing the character. He wears an ascot and everything the same way that he's styled exactly the same, but it's
Wait,
just Tom
Val
Hanks.
Kilmer's in that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's Iceman in the
He's the
original.
Iceman, babe.
I'm a fan of Val Kilmer. It must be said.
He's a good man.
I like Val.
What's your favorite Val Kilmer movie?
Oh, fuck. I'm trying to remember all the things he was in, and I'm picturing.
You're a huge
scenes.
fan.
Well, it's less that I It's.
He's like
You
the
like
work.
Tombstone?
I don't think I've. No, I've seen Tombstone.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
What's the fucking? I'm thinking of a movie that I can't conjure the name of. Where
Okay,
he's.
describe the image in your mind.
I seem to recall he's like escorting a hapless person. Fuck.
You're talking about Kiss Kiss Bang
Kiss
Bang.
Kiss
Am
Bang
I
Bang?
talking about
Where he
Kiss
plays
Kiss
Gay
Bang Bang?
Perry?
I really
Yeah.
like that movie. I like him in that a lot.
Yeah, that movie rules.
He's great in that
In my
movie.
other-
Perfect movie. If someone is listening to this podcast and doesn't love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang or hasn't seen it, go fucking watch
It's been a very
It's
long
great.
time since I've seen that. So that's Kiss Kiss Bang. The other role that I really like him in is the 1-0 Point Never Animals music video.
it. Okay.
I think that's the name of the song. He has a really genuinely upsetting. He has a song, and he's in it. He's in the music video, and it makes me sad, but it's good. Val Kilmer's cool.
Kyle, you're an interesting person.
Thank you.
Yeah. I like that
welcome.
the two credits you can pull is
Thank you.
kind of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and then a music video for one of
Well, he could only pull one.
I know, I said
and it's
kind
the
of.
music video, and then we supplied him with the second one,
He's-
which is like a minor part.
Yeah.
He's not in Heat, right?
No, he is.
He is.
He's in
Okay,
Heat.
I
He's the
love
third-
also that. That's a great
third
fucking
build,
movie.
kind of.
He's probably fourth or fifth.
Is he
build.
fourth? Okay.
He's lower down, right?
He's like the third most important guy in the crew.
Well,
Sure.
I think he's great in that movie.
I think that in the crew, it's Al Pacino, and then everybody else.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Or I
fair.
mean, Robert De Niro, and
Well,
then everybody else.
The reason I said is because Val Kilmer gets like scenes outside of the heists. But yeah, I think you're right.
we got to get a Val Kilmer Ghost Train movie going.
yeah.
Especially now. So
I'm sure he's up
that
for
popped
it.
Kyle.
Good. Sorry.
There's I've got some more stuff we could get into, but I'll save that for like another episode.
You don't want to talk
another-
Tom Hanks more?
Oh no, we can talk more
I'm
Tom
happy to
Hanks.
talk.
I'm just gonna save one Ghost Train story for later.
Okay.
So there's more you're
because-
saying.
Yes,
Okay.
there will be more
There will
coming
be
down
more
the
blood,
tracks, at
which is
some
what I
point.
would call a sequel to that movie.
There's more than 2 Ghost Train stories?
Yeah. Well, I want to end with one this is just an interesting thing that I found. So it turns out there's actually kind of a Japanese legend that comes from kind of ghostly, spectrally type trains, but it's a little different than a lot of the stuff we've talked about. So there's a kind of a Japanese folk tale.
You really just said that like we're at a novelty restaurant.
Oh, it's a little different.
We do things a little differently here.
Yeah, we put the balsamic on the side. So So it's a story called the Nisakisha. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it is basically a folk tale from the late 19th century about Tanuki involved spectral ghost trains.
Oh?
But it is in these stories, basically the Tanuki are, so for those who don't know, Tanuki is like a raccoon-like being. It's a real animal, but they have a special place in Japanese folklore where they're kind of these like nature analog things where they're used in folklore. Kyle might have more detail on that, but
No,
They're-
no, I don't.
okay, cool. So the earliest versions of this folklore, at least in a written form, come from around the 1879 to 1887, as Japan started to put up railroad tracks to have steam trains go across the country. And effectively people would see these ghost trains coming and whenever the trains would kind of come into a station, they would, or like almost hit something, they would just blow right through whatever was in their way, and people would find a dead tanuki laying across the tracks where these trains were supposedly going to be. So it seems like there weren't always dead tanuki. That's just some of the versions of it. But like the tanuki effectively as like some sort of kind of prank would impersonate trains as the like trains were coming to Japan to like fuck with the people in Japan. Like it was this thing. It like the type of myth that this was a part of is what inspired the movie Pompoko as like a kind of tanuki fighting industrialization and the oncoming of mechanical things and westernization and all that kind of stuff. So this was like a folk legend about tanuki impersonating the trains as like a kind of metaphor for the mechanization and
industrialization
quote, progress
and all that
of Japan. Yeah.
Now that's a movie I'd love to see Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise swapping on.
But is he gonna play
they're gonna play the Tanukis, and they're gonna bounce around on their big fat nuts and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Sounds good.
Yeah. So this is just one of those things that like led to it was almost like a kind of a metaphorical output of like worrying about the change in their country.
Sure.
This was like the outlet for that. And so so in some small way, the movie Pompoko is related to folklore legends that involve tanuki impersonating ghost trains.
Sick.
Which I just think is like
that.
a weird crossover thing that I wasn't expecting to find out while doing research for this episode.
Making me want to do another yokai episode right now. I got to get back into it.
Look, I'm just trying to name drop enough movies on this podcast that we can just watch movies for the Patreon for the next like 6 months. Because like we've already talked about like Ghostbusters 2. We've got Pompoko.
Yeah, now everybody's going to be begging us to watch Turner and Hooch.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
I've never actually
It doesn't take
seen that
much to
movie.
get us to watch. I haven't either. It really doesn't take much to get us to watch stuff on the Patreon.
It's
so
true.
if no one wants any of these things, just let us know.
This playing out the way it has, we are 100% going to get somebody who is going to make us watch Turner and Hooch. Just saying.
Good.
So
that works. Well, we'll make Jules join us for that
cool.
one. I guess, like I said, more ghost train stories in the future. But for now, I think we'll go ahead and move on to a big question.
Sure.
So, we've talked a lot about ghost trains. We've talked about ghost ships. We've talked about some other forms of ghostly
That's all true.
transportation. Yeah. So, if you were to, in the middle of the night, out walking by yourself, run into a ghostly, ghastly vehicle, which type of vehicle would you most want to run into? In ghost form. Yeah, I stopped you earlier because you started launching into talking about a ghost Segway, which is like a funny vehicle.
Yeah.
And I didn't want you to burn all the really good shit at the beginning, that early in the episode.
Think about like a skeleton driving around on a fucking ghostly Segway. That would be kind of cool.
Kind of a Paul Blart situation.
Yeah, or like a Silicon Valley, like all the fucking ghosts in Silicon Valley ride around on Segways or whatever. Or at least the ones that died when Segways were like the thing.
Yeah.
But then, it's going to be the hoverboards after that or whatever. Shit, Jules.
Recumbent bicycle.
Okay.
There you go. That's a good one.
And sorry, do you mean like when you say run into, do you mean like physically impacted by or?
Well, I mean, in most cases, you don't get physically impacted. It just like runs into
you
and dissipates or goes through
Yeah.
you. Like you either break it up or it keeps kind of trucking through you.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to change it to a penny farthing.
Oh, penny. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Spectral penny farthings.
Now that's got, see, Jules, I like that because that has great flavor, to me.
Thank you.
think. I
Has a
like
good
that.
finish.
Yeah, it's a
A
good,
nice round finish.
A nice oaky timbre.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's ghostly. It's like, if you,
It immediately evokes an image of what the ghost riding it looks like.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if somebody were to
And
be
so
like,
do you want that spectral being on top of the penny farthing?
Yeah, but I want it to be an asshole hipster from Brooklyn
Aw,
in
come
like
on.
1998.
Okay, so this is a much more recent penny farthing.
I want you to be picturing the Monopoly Man, but instead you get a guy who makes his own
yeah, I
homebrew.
was
Yeah,
picturing the
this
Monopoly
is
Man.
like a 10-speed penny farthing.
Sure,
Oh my
yeah.
God. A fixie.
Yeah.
You know, I like that. I mean, I like most of that. But like, I was
Kyle's got
just thinking
notes.
like a penny farthing. I mean, it's like that's a kind of bike that a ghost would ride, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
but I had to think about vehicles, and I was like, what's the funniest vehicle? And I think it would be kind of crazy to run into the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. As a
I
it is.
fucking knew that's what you were going to say. That's awesome. How did it die?
Yeah, what do you want this experience to be like?
In a duel with a hamburger mobile. And
yeah.
And it lost?
yeah, unfortunately. And it's not about which one's, better than the other. It's just the brute strength,
That's right.
But yeah, and I don't know. The reason I would want this, because nobody would believe me.
It would be a kind of a lot of people can say they ran into the Weenie Mobile somewhere and maybe got a little fucking whistle or something.
Yeah.
Do they
but-
give out whistles?
What? Okay. So you obviously don't remember the Santa Claus.
Oh my God.
So
Jesus
Judge
Christ. How
Reinhold's
many
whole thing in
fucking
that movie
times?
is about about losing his weenie whistle, and he's gifted one at the end.
You're right. You're right.
Oh my
I'm right.
fucking God.
Okay.
How many times is that movie going to have to come up before I end up having to watch it with you?
Ooh, on the Patreon.
Fuck.
Everybody tag Kyle, message Kyle right now in the Discord. You want Kyle to watch the Santa Claus.
I do think it would be kind of fun to set up a poll and make Kyle watch one holiday movie for the podcast for
God.
Christmas this year.
Well, you're watching 8 Crazy Nights with me the next year, so
I'm down. Hey,
we're gonna fuck
we
it
can
up.
set up a Hanukkah poll too.
Actually, I
just
said
don't know
that
how
like
many Hanukkah movies there
I
are.
said that like it was
Yeah.
gonna be some sort of
Like,
like
Kyle,
getcha.
like that's something you want to do.
I was gonna say I think I'm more willing to watch 8 Crazy Nights
Yeah.
just normally
You're right.
without any extra
baseline,
context
yeah.
than you are.
Yeah,
Considering
that's
for
Do you have
you're
any-
the person that for years on this podcast made veiled threats at Adam Sandler at every
true.
possible
that did happen.
opportunity.
It is a part
Is
of the record.
there a Hanukkah movie that you like?
Do they make Hanukkah movies?
I mean, there must be movies set at Hanukkah.
I'm trying to
time.
think.
Yeah.
I feel like
I feel like there's more movies about sitting Shiva than there are
Yeah.
about
That's true.
Hanukkah.
yeah, that's definitely true.
And I think we need to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror.
Yeah, maybe. It might be time. I don't know because, like, okay, I'm gonna get real for a 2nd.
Mhm.
There was so little content in the way of video for Jewish holidays as a kid that we just ended up watching cartoons about Christmas.
Yeah.
Like the stop motion Rudolph movie, Bumbling Snowman. We watched some bullshit called, I think, Nick and Noel, and I'm sure it sucks majorly or whatever, but it was about like a cat and a dog.
Mhm. I remember
all
that
of
thing,
our
yeah.
all of our like holiday stuff was like books. Like I remember Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblin was very good. And I remember there's this Hanukkah goblin that's going to get a pickle out of a jar, and its hand gets stuck in the jar, and it won't let go of the pickle. But wise Herschel is like, well, you have to let go of the pickle so you can pull your hand out of the jar, Mr. Hanukkah Goblin. And he's like, no,
Do
I
you
want the
wanna-
pickle.
You want to know something really perfect?
Sure.
Hmm.
There is a very famous episode of SNL where Tom Hanks was hosting and they did Celebrity Jeopardy. And Tom Hanks, the whole thing with Celebrity Jeopardy is that the celebrities are dumb.
Okay.
And Tom Hanks was playing himself and tries to get a pickle out of a jar.
Really?
And his hand gets stuck because he won't let go of the pickle.
Fuck?
This is for real. I'm being.
Wow.
It's Tom Hanks. I'm 100%
That's-
serious.
We found the perfect bridge
Incredible.
point. Oh my god!
Wow.
And they try to tell him to let go of it, and he lets go of the jar, and
Oh
his
my
hand
God.
stays in it.
So Tom Hanks could maybe play Herschel.
Yep.
He could do like a New York Jew accent. And he could like he could do that and that could be who would play the goblin? Tom Cruise.
Perfect.
There you go. There you go.
This is
We
it.
figured it out.
This is everything.
All right, just to end this, just to wrap this up quickly, because I never answered the question. I want to be sandwiched between the monster trucks for Hulk Hogan and the giant from WCW Halloween Havoc.
Okay.
And have them both just crash into me from both sides and evaporate into dust
That's awesome.
and air. In which case, I get to finally go and buy my cookie cake for Hulk Hogan's death.
Wow.
You said crash into me, so I'm gonna say the Dave Matthews Band tour bus that dumped the shit on all those people. That's my ghost.
There you go. We want the ghostly tour bus.
Oh.
I mean, that would be a
into the
traumatic
Chicago
enough
River.
event to create a spectral bus, don't
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
I love that. I love that's fantastic. And I'm sorry, I don't want to like actually reverse the podcast here, but like the two fucking least Jewish people playing Jewish characters is very funny to me. But go ahead. What were you gonna,
It's really good. It's really good.
what were you gonna
What
say?
Tom Cruise doesn't read
Not
Jewish
very, no,
on screen?
not really. He does not.
All right.
What were you, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt what you were gonna say, but like that
No,
just
you're
to
good.
clarify to people out there who may not know what I was reaching for with that idea.
Yeah. Look, I didn't have a good. You guys had decent enough answers that there wasn't really good room for a third one to be talked about at length. So I just went for a quick
I mean,
one.
I like it. I don't want to. I
I love a quickie.
Yeah, of course. I mean, who doesn't like a quickie?
So I guess on that note, we'll make our business a quickie this week. So if you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/It Gets Weird Podcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers, from Google Play to Apple Podcasts to Spotify. If any of those are still active, they seem to be shutting down at random. But I think Spotify will be there for a while. So look up It Gets Weird anywhere you find podcasts, and you'll probably
It
find
Gets
us.
Weird is anywhere podcasts are sold, and you better believe it. We also have itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to send us an email, we might read it on the show if you send us something good. So send us something good and not something that sucks or whatever. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, we've got It Gets Weird TV. Right now, we are discussing season 2 of The X-Files, and you get to vote as a donor on the next show that we watch. So go ahead and check out that $2 tier. But if you like that, there's more. There's a $5 tier where you get access to a bonus show in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Niall. We're always fucking mixing it up there. So you're getting bonus content every single week. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. And you get access to a Discord where we're hanging out, chatting about what movies we're being forced to watch for the Patreon feed. And if you want to hear us talk about Turner and Hooch and 8 Crazy Nights, that shit's going up on the $5 tier. So you're going to have to donate to that shit if you want to hear that. We also have a $1 tier where you don't get anything out of it. You're just saying, hey, here's a tip. Thanks for doing what you do. Here's $1. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird Podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Please continue to support the show. Spread the word to your friends, all of your enemies, all of everybody. All about It Gets Weird. I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle signing out.
Bye.
Bye.